The No Fate channel, checking in. And today I'm going to be showing you how to assemble a PR 4000 rack from Rep Fitness with only one set of hands. This process is going to be the same if you have a PR 5000 or basically if you have any other rack to assemble. I know so many of you are on your own. You're like me, you are an army of one, and when it comes to assembling home gym equipment. So I thought this might prove useful to you. If this happens to be your first time to the channel, give this video a like and hit that red subscribe button. On this Dad's Home Gym series, I typically just review pieces of home gym equipment on every episode to help you decide, hey, what is going to be right for your home gym, what you are going to get the most use out of, and most importantly, what's worth your hard-earned money. So step number one is going to be to bring in the monstrosity of the PR 4000 and lay it out here as neat and organized as possible. Let's get started. So you want to have everything laid out as neatly, as organized as you possibly can. I find that just makes the process a bit more smoother when going together. Also, if your rack, which the PR 4000 does, has these numbers here, you can see they have increments of 5. You want to set up these posts in order to have the numbers facing however you want them. For me, I want them all facing out so that when I'm coming into the rack, I can see the numbers. So I just move the posts around so that I can have them the way that I wanted to, but to each their own. The tools that you're going to need are a socket and a wrench. It's just going to make things move quicker and easier, and you're going to be glad if you're using a socket set and a wrench. I will tell you though, tip, do not tighten anything until the last and final step when everything is said and done. You want to keep everything just hand tightened up until that point. It's going to make things just fit a little bit easier when you're trying to work things into place. Also, if you happen to make a mistake, it's going to be easier to undo and if you haven't already just kind of cranked them down. The first step in the assembly is going to attach 2 cross beams to 2 posts. The best bet for you, especially if you're an individual of one, is to do it on the floor. It's going to just be a whole lot easier. You're not going to have to worry about getting up on a step stool to attach them. I'm going to be attaching them at the top and at the bottom. You obviously can attach them in a number of different locations depending on any specific needs that you might have. But for the sake of today's video, it's just going to be top and the bottom because I happen to think that's where most people will be attaching these cross beams to. We have crossed the bridge of easy steps and now we are firmly in the land of tough decisions. Now the next step is going to be to attach the pull-up bar and the super heavy cross beam in the rear of this thing. Now there's 2 methods to do it and you need to pick your poison as a person with only 2 hands. Probably the easier method for most of you is going to be to assemble this whole thing on the floor. Keep it on the floor. It's going to be easier to align the components, especially this heavy support beam. And then once it is completed, you are going to tip it up back against where you want it to go. The problem with that method, and the real only problem, is once it's all assembled, it is going to be super heavy. These weren't too bad to get up, but keep in mind, I've got the shorter height posts and I don't have the PR 5000. So if you've got the PR 5000, which is heavier, or if you have the taller posts, you're going to have to lift a pretty good amount of weight to get this thing up, standing up straight. And then you're going to have to jockey it into position. Keep in mind, if you do have a low ceiling respective to your posts, when you tip it up, you might hit that ceiling as well, or light fixtures. Now, the other way to do it is to put the 2 sides up, get them where you want them to go, or at least very close to where you want them to go, and then first assemble the pull-up bar. Reason being, it should offer a good amount of support, but it's not nearly as heavy as the rear brace. And then the next step would be to try to get the rear brace in Unfortunately for me and for many of you, I think that's going to be ultimately the tougher step because this rear brace is so heavy. I think it's going to be really difficult to get it up with one hand and put the bolt through with the other hand. Not necessarily impossible, but I think ultimately it's going to be the harder step overall. I've decided to show you how to do it the hard way. Why? Because you're smart. You know how to assemble it on the floor and just lift it up into place. And unless you have a really tight spot, that's probably going to be the best option for most of you. But for those of you looking to do it the hard way, here we go. And of course, safety first. In order to make this as easy as possible while you juggle this kind of thing, we're going to take the bolt and we're going to put it all the way through, just ready to kind of pop it in once we get this thing lined up. And we're going to do it on both sides. And then hopefully, once the first one is in on each side, it should be easy to simply swing it out and put the other ones in. So let's go. Let's see how hard this can be. And obviously, if you just had the regular pull-up bar in this PR 4000, it should be lighter and even easier. Voila. And before we go ahead and try to put the other bolts in, I'm going to hand tighten, if I can play a little pocket pool here, get out the nuts and bolts. And we're going to hand tighten these nuts and bolts on each side for safety, because we don't want this accidentally falling on our face. That's why we wear the hard helmet. Here we go, swinging it up. We're going to swing it up. And now for the moment of truth, the hard part. We're going to connect the support beam. I will have my back turned to you, no disrespect intended, but I have got my little trusty Thomas the Tank Engine step stool in order to give myself a little bit easier of time lifting this thing up. You might even need a ladder if possible. Keep in mind that if this thing is swaying a lot, you're going to want to, again, tighten those bolts down. Not snug, but just get them tightened down, or get something to weigh this down. I just used a sandbag to keep this from swaying. Here we go. There you have it. It's a done deal. Clearly, assembling this PR 4000 can be done with only one person. I did do the harder method. Obviously, if you had a PR 5000 or if this was the taller rack version, it would be that much more difficult because of weight or because you'd have to get on a higher step stool or even a ladder to get this thing assembled. Now, one thing that I am absolutely and honestly omitting from the assembly of this PR 4000 is bolting it to the floor. The support beams have holes on the bottom that allow you to bolt it right to the floor, and it even comes with the equipment to bolt it to the floor. However, I'm just not going to do it. Why? This thing, once it's all set and done and put in place, is going to be super solid, and I'm not going to need that extra support whatsoever. In fact, I think it's really designed to not be bolted to the floor. Most people with their home gyms, whether it's a garage or a basement, what have you, they don't want to start drilling holes into their floor. They just don't want to do it. I think it's really designed to not have to be bolted to the floor. It's just an additional option that they give for those of you who want extra support, or if it's a commercial type environment and they want to make sure that they're covered in terms of liability's sake, then you can do that step. Now that everything is in place, what you want to do is put this rack right where you want it. I mean, line it up perfectly, and then assemble all your other attributes or accessories or attachments. And the final step should be to crank down on these bolts and nuts with your 24mm socket wrench or ratchet, whatever you have. Hopefully you found this video informative. If you have any questions, regarding the assembly or regarding why I went with the PR4000 for my rack, drop it in the comments below. Also, if you want to support the channel, if you're going to be buying anything from Rep Fitness, do me a favor, click on that affiliate link. You click on the link, it helps me out, it helps out the channel, and it helps basically get me to pick up more equipment in order to do future reviews and pass on further information to those of you watching this video. If you came this far in the video and have any questions, drop them in the comments below. You know I'll get them answered. I always answer all of the questions as quick as I possibly can. If you came this far in the video, thanks for coming this far in the video. I didn't think I was gonna make it. It was touch and go there, especially with this heavy beam. This stuff looks a lot lighter than it actually is. They definitely put this thing together solid. Hopefully you found it informative. Thank you so much for coming to the end of the video. I'm rambling. I got a few more steps to do. Stay to the very end if you want to see what the final form of this rack is eventually going to look like. I almost forgot. Thanks for watching, and as usual, don't save anything for the trip back. This channel is dedicated to my life as a father of 2 wonderful children, and it centers around health, fitness, and all of the tricks and tribulations that I go through to try to be a great parent to my children and still accomplish my own personal goals.